Welcome to Ladies Group Chat, where the internet's mess gets the group text treatment. Today's lineup is wild. Hooters wants to be wholesome, NBA tickets cost actual house money, and some people still cannot handle a woman succeeding without making it weird. Also, if your friend treats your good news like a personal attack, that's not your bestie. That's a bad Yelp review with a phone. Hooters is apparently trying to trade the strip club-adjacent vibe for a family-friendly beach restaurant energy with updated uniforms and menu changes to bring in more than just dudes who think ranch dressing is a personality. And listen, I support growth, but people are clowning this for a reason. You cannot keep the name Hooters, keep the entire core identity, and then act shocked when nobody fully buys the wholesome pivot. The funniest part was people pitching absurd replacement names, because that's the real problem here. They're trying to rebrand around the one thing the brand is named after. Good luck, babes. The Knicks being down 3-0 got the usual doomed energy because yes, historically, no NBA team has ever come back from a 3-0 deficit in a best of 7. Meanwhile, people were annoyed that playoff games suddenly start at 8 instead of 7, which sounds small until you're sitting there at 10:45 on a weeknight asking why basketball has become a sleep deprivation challenge. Then there's the media nonsense. One complaint was straight-up Danilo erasure, with Danilo Gallinari getting left out of coverage like he offended the graphics team. And the Taylor Swift thing is still so irritating. Commentators going out of their way to call her only Travis Kelce's girlfriend is such a transparent double standard. You know her name. Everyone knows her name. Be serious. Also, NBA Finals ticket prices hitting $275,000 each is deranged. At that point, you are not buying a seat. You are financing a small nation. I love the idea of Freudenfreud, which is basically taking real joy in your friends being happy. That should be the standard, honestly. Because the opposite is grim. The friend who downplays your win immediately changes the subject back to their crisis, or keeps some weird internal scoreboard of who got what and when. The useful question is whether this is new, or whether it's the pattern. If it's a pattern, name it gently, but clearly. The best confrontation advice was a simple 2-step. First, notice the shift and ask, are you okay? Has something changed? Then actually listen without trying to win. If they instantly get defensive and flip it on you, that's information. Not every friendship is meant to survive every life stage, and a lot of people really do hit their 30s and realize the circle gets smaller but healthier. Michelle Obama's whole thing about going high together applies here. Real friendship is collective uplift, not silent competition in cute outfits. The reality TV stuff is dark and messy. On Summer House, there's chatter that Sierra wanted Wes Wilson off the show, which opened a whole conversation about how much cast members can influence production and casting. Then there's the bigger ethical problem. Producers keeping alleged abusers on these shows, or creating environments where people are basically fed into a machine of hate, speculation, and psychological strain. That contrast came up at reunions too. Some people showed up measured, honest, and genuinely supportive of each other. Others did the classic reality TV dodge, deflect, minimize, act confused, never apologize. And when someone vulnerable is clearly taking a serious mental health hit, like KJ being discussed in that context, the answer cannot always be great TV. Sometimes the healthiest move is getting out of that industry entirely. Gayle King talking about catching her husband with another woman and then finding out it was a pattern was brutal, but her conclusion was crystal clear. She would not stay with a man who felt threatened by her success. That lands because it's bigger than cheating. It's about the humiliation of being punished for thriving. And celebrity rumor culture keeps feeding on that exact storyline affairs. Betrayals, whispered mess around public figures. All of it grows legs online even when the evidence is thin, because people love a scandal that confirms their worst suspicions. This is where internet culture stops being funny. Parasocial obsession can escalate into real-world violence, like people showing up at homes, firing shots, sending invasive threats, or cases like Kim Kardashian's Paris robbery, reminding everyone how dangerous visibility can get. Some brands now build delayed posting rules into creator contracts so people aren't broadcasting their exact location in real time. Honestly, that makes total sense. There's still tension because live content feels immediate and profitable, but safety has to win that argument. And the examples from South Korea were interesting, like all-female night buses and women driver programs through ride apps. That's proactive safety design, and it's hard not to notice how little of that energy exists here. The influencer work conversation was refreshingly honest. If you're a salaried creator expected to get one perfect merch or promo image per item in under an hour, of course burnout is coming for you. So when people talk about using AI to generate product imagery or speed up the workflow, I get why that's appealing. It's not always laziness. Sometimes it's survival under ridiculous content quotas. At the same time, the sponsorship transparency was important too. If a Weight Watchers deal is driving what topics get airtime, that absolutely shapes the editorial product. That's worth saying out loud. And commerce keeps getting weirder in ways that are kind of genius. Vivrel's subscription model lets people rotate designer bags, jewelry and watches, then buy at a discount if they fall in love. It's Rent the Runway with richer taste and more commitment issues. Whatnot being pitched as the biggest live shopping marketplace in the US also tracks with where everything is headed. Entertainment, impulse buying, and a countdown timer. Dangerous combo. The AI creativity side was more interesting than I expected too. People were using chatbots for interior design and getting surprisingly nuanced style direction, like full mood board language and specific creative identity. But AI celebrity imagery is still a minefield. If someone suddenly looks like a completely different person online, people are going to ask whether it's enhancement, fabrication, or just digital fan fiction. The intimacy advice was practical in a way more conversations should be. Start with what you like, use curiosity instead of criticism, and make requests concrete. The eye exam technique was smart. Give options, guide a little left or right, make feedback easy to receive instead of turning it into a performance review. The stats matter here too. If 90% of women say their favorite part of sex is not penetration, and over half report pain during intercourse, then pretending one script works for everybody is just bad information. So yes, more foreplay, more clitoral stimulation, more check-ins, more daily non-sexual affection. Also, if people are exploring kink, start gently, calibrate, use safe words, and act like consent is a skill, because it is. Shein acquiring Everlane is one of those stories that feels like satire, but isn't. A fast fashion giant swallowing a sustainability-branded company is late-stage capitalism in a trench coat. Netflix also caught heat for doing that thing, where it takes a strong book and somehow turns it into a weak adaptation with questionable casting and a script that feels allergic to the source material. And on the political side, the reporting around a Justice Department settlement allegedly giving Trump and his family protection from future tax audits while shielding a massive slush fund hit people exactly the way you'd expect, with absolute rage over unequal accountability. Then, in a completely different flavor of rich person weirdness, there was also reporting that Trump skipped Don Jr.'s Bahamas wedding with vague excuses. Even billionaire family drama still somehow sounds awkward and petty. A few smaller bits were too good to skip. Dating app safety tools like Hilly's Consent Guard, which blocks unsolicited messages automatically, feel like the kind of feature women have been owed for years. There was also debate over naming a baby after a pet, like Cleo, which honestly feels less scandalous than some of the names people are already out here inventing from scratch. Prince William giving a dry no comment when asked about a possible Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce wedding invite was perfect royal damage control. Even celebrity weddings now get treated like diplomatic events. And yes, Keke Palmer and Sean Evans flirting on a podcast gave the internet exactly what it wanted. Chemistry, plausible deniability, and 1,000 people instantly planning the wedding in their heads. That's the chat for today. If Hooters becomes wholesome before sports media learns to say Taylor Swift's name, I'll truly know we're living in strange times. Thanks for hanging with Ladies Group Chat. This episode was generated by Podkey. Create your own at podkey.fm.
Podkey.